to the first live stream of 2025, our 8th season, the premiere of the 8th season of the Talkin TV podcast. Welcome, all of you. I have another panel that I have assembled once again for my top 10, the top 10 best movies of 2025. Guys, what a year. What a year for movies. It was easily, for me, the best year of movies so far this decade. I know that's not saying much, but given overall the caliber of movies that we've had to work with overall since the turn of the decade, you know, this whole weird pandemic era that we've been living through, I wanted to start this conversation off like I do usually with my top 10 panel, obviously by introducing everybody and then kind of getting everyone's general thoughts on the year of movies in general and what the year had to offer. Starting with you, Jack, aka Swerve Master. What are your thoughts on the year of 2025 for movies?
Honestly, I think this was better than like last year, in my opinion. I caught up on a lot of great shit, to be honest. And yeah, like this was just like really fun. And I'm really glad that I'm here and able to kind of like talk about some of the movies that I really enjoyed, especially some that I have on my list that might not be talked about. But you know, we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Kristen, going over to you. Miss Filmigo, first off, happy to have you back. It's been a minute.
Yes, it has been a minute. I think it's been Eddington. So happy New Year. Happy New Year to all. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday. But I feel 2025 was a fantastic year for cinema, film, streaming, whatever you want to call it, wherever we're watching film. But I realized when I was making my list, I gave out more A's in 2025 than I did, I think, last year or maybe 2 years ago. But yeah, I've loved going to the movies so much this year, and everything felt so different. Everything felt so fresh, new stories. And I was like creating my top 10 list, and I'm like, was like battling it out in my head, like, oh, this one should go higher, this one should go lower with my top 10 list. But I really enjoyed film for 2025. I mean, so far, I saw Primate. I don't know. It's a little rough start, in my opinion.
It's January. You always got to get.
Hey! That was a good movie. I really enjoyed it.
I liked Primate as well.
I mean, Primate, it's gonna have its audience. People are gonna love it, but is it for me? No. But we'll see how the rest of the year goes. I'm excited to see what's in store for 2026. I mean, there's a lot of big blockbusters, but for 2025, it really was a fantastic year. Like I said, so many different things. So I enjoyed what we saw in the year.
Yes, definitely. All right, moving over to Luke. Not Luke Reviews, but Luke of the Franchise Addicts. Had you on for our Leftovers retrospective. I came on your show to talk about Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade. First off, happy to have you back here again. What are your thoughts on the year of 2025 when it comes to movies?
Yeah, so having my own movie podcast, I end up watching a lot of old movies because I have to for the show. So getting in the 2025 movies is a challenge for me, but I enjoyed the process this year. A couple great films that really work in theaters, a couple great films that work just as well streaming as others. I really liked last year's movie slate. And I think the top 10 that I made for last year was pretty strong all the way through. I feel the same about this year. So it is nice that, you know, like you guys are saying with the COVID years and stuff like that, we're hitting a little bit more consistency with movie releases. I can kind of trust it a little bit more. I know that if somebody says something's good, they're not just like, this is the first movie I've seen that's actually good in the last 2 years. So if a movie is good in 2025 and somebody's saying it, it probably is pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. And finally, moving over to Pat, Mr. Motion Sweetie. Technical difficulties notwithstanding, Pat, you are probably the only other guy I know that watches as many movies per year, like on like as a consistent basis as I do. So, given overall your thoughts on 2025 in general, and in comparison to the previous couple of years, and just like, what did you think of the slate of movies that they had to offer this year?
Sorry about the technical issue. First of all, my webcam just isn't working. Decided to crap out on me. But anyway, you know, the as far as the year went, it kind of snuck up on me. Got about halfway through this year, and I was looking at, as you create your top 10 as the year goes, I was kind of not happy with things as it was going. And then all of a sudden, it kind of just really just snuck up on me. It ended up being a pretty stellar year. I mean, December always helps. December always kind of gives you a bit of a rush of good stuff. But yeah, I was getting worried for a while, but yeah, it really ended up. And like Luke said, there's like a streaming and a like theater kind of experience I was able to have this year separately. I'd rather it be more theater than streaming, but is what it is.
It is what it is indeed. My kind of overall thoughts on 2025 are mostly just so we've been talking every year in some way, shape, or form about, we always ask the question, are the movies back? And obviously, and when we say that, we're always talking about kind of, I feel like this nostalgic idea of what the movies kind of were like for us growing up. We're all like relatively different ages. We've all had like, kind of different experiences growing up throughout it. But I think kind of where all of us have like that similar common ground is we've all kind of, discovered, this film community that has really been around for, I would say, a little bit just about going on 2 decades now. And that all obviously changed significantly with the dawning of the pandemic, which obviously, for better, for worse, altered movies and the state of viewing movies forever. But I think what kind of really differentiated 2025 from the last couple of COVID years, and I think that really made it into something special, is the fact that this is the first year, at least in a long time I can remember, where the majority of the big celebrated movies that were talked about, because I've been talking about this a lot as well, how it feels like the only way to like really get people to the theater is to turn movies into guaranteed events. Some of the biggest movies the last few years ago, the Oppenheimers, the Dune movies, Top Gun Maverick, the Batman, the Avatar movies, to name just a few. All of the movies really were saying, yes, we are big, we are grandiose, we are events. But the thing about that trend is it did continue into this year with 2025, but the difference is that the movies that I felt like people were celebrating that were events were all original. And I can't remember the last time that happened. Watch Another is sort of loosely based on Vineland. K-pop Demon Hunters is coming off of a long line of, love of anime. We also saw anime take off in a big way this year. But for the most part, almost all of, I feel like, the big movies, and I can't speak to everybody's list here, but I know for a fact that this is the first year in a long time where all 10 of the movies that I have are either completely original or based off of properties that nobody really was familiar with. Like, you didn't need to have a familiarity with the source material in order to really go in and appreciate it. That was my takeaway. And also, of course, Jack, you and I, we attended Toronto International Film Festival this year. This is my first time going to the festival. It really, I feel like, was a game changer just in terms of if you're a movie lover in any way, shape, or form. I heavily recommend getting to a festival if you ever can, if you're able to. So yeah, that was just one of a couple things that really made 2025 a special year, much more so than the last couple of years. So we're going to get started on these lists. Like I said, we got 5 people here. We're going to be mowing through these top 10 lists. So basically similar to the last time that I had a panel like this, which was about 2 years ago, we're going to be going each roundtable style. We're going to be rattling off honorable mentions, and then we'll go 10 through 6 per person. And then when we reset, we'll do 5 through 2, and then we'll each end with our number 1. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Cool. Keeping it nice and simple. So, Jack, going over to you. List off some honorable mentions and then go through it. You're 10 through 6. And you can obviously give, elaborate on each one as you go through. Please.
Okay, dude. You know me. I've seen way more movies, so it's going to be really hard to kind of pick out my honorable mentions.
I think you can do it. I
don't know, man. Listen, because I'm looking at my list. I'm just oh shit. What do I pick? So I'm going to start, throwing some movies out here. If I had I'd Kick You is one that I would recommend as an honorable mention, at least for me, because right now we're seeing Rose Byrne become kind of the spoiler best actress contender for the Oscar. If anything bad happens to Jessie Buckley, which I highly doubt. But yeah, man, this movie was it was stressful. It really took me through a lot of emotions, but also at the same time, I really felt for this character who's going through a lot with her dealing with the daughter who's sick, and also just all the stuff that's happening around her world. And yeah, this was really, really great. I would also say Weapons, Frankenstein, Bugonia, The Plague, which just came out last week. I saw it back in October, and this movie just stuck with me. And it's probably because if you lived through your middle school days, you probably are aware of how kids change as they grew up to be men and women in this society. But it was a really intense movie, and it really kind of took me back to a time where I don't want to
so some uncomfortable days, to say the least. Unless
uncomfortable days. Right. I would also mention Pelion. It's coming out this year, but I saw it also last year. This was really great. It was like a biker movie with some gay overtones. Also, A Poet, which I really liked. That was another one I saw back in October, but I think it's coming out this year. 28 Years Later, Bring Her Back. My Father's Shadow, Sound of Falling, The Phoenician Scheme, Die My Love, Warfare, which came and went, but I really liked it. Just oh my god, there's just like so much. I don't know, like it's just way too much to like kind of list out. But I think the last thing I'll probably just mention is Castration Movie Part 2, and it's probably because like I saw the first part
Right.
last year for the first time,
Jeez.
and I really liked it, and it really kind of like brought me back to like that time where I was like hanging out with my college friends and we were just like shit talking, but also at the same time like we were really like talking about like life. And the second one is really more deeper into like the New York life, but also it gets really dark with like the main character that you're following now is in like a trans sex cult underground and like Bushwick, and then Ivy Volk just like appears out of nowhere and like in the middle of the movie and just starts doing her thing, and it's kind of like and then also the guy from I saw the TV Glow just appears also as well as one of the main characters. But yeah, this one was really great. Really stuck with me, and it's one of those like alternative movies that I highly recommend. But yeah, that's my honorable mentions.
All right, and now moving into your 10 through 6, what do you got?
Oh, so
You're like, oh shit, it's still on me.
Sorry. Yeah, it's still me. Okay, so starting at number 10, I have Surat.
All right.
This is a movie that I caught at TIFF with one of our friends, Nathaniel. Strangely enough, I did the terrible thing of booking 2 seats right in the front row for this movie.
So you were craning up looking at it. That's
yes, but it was a thing because like I think it was like a nearly sold out screening, and it was like during like the ticket rush that we were supposed to do. So once I got to like the Surat page, I was just like, oh shit, like there's only like front row seats. So I picked those 2 specifically just because I heard the movie is like very intense. There's a lot of like great sound design and editing, and it's one of those films that you can't really talk deeply about because it would spoil like the whole entire experience. This film just like really shook me, and it's probably because it's basically about a father and a son who's trying to find their relative in the middle of the Moroccan desert. And in the middle of the movie, or in the middle of like this whole situation, there's a rave going on, and you're seeing all these like people attending this rave in the middle of the desert. Something bad happens, the military shows up, and all the party goes disperse. Instead of, following the military, these group of partygoers and the father and the son decide to go on another like adventure to the other side of the desert to find another party. But then eventually it turns into a Wages of Fear meets Mad Max Fury Road situation where you're following all these characters who are going through like their really traumatic stuff, but also at the same time, there's a lot of deadly forces that are like appearing in the desert, and a twist that happens in the middle of the film that is very shocking, and it kind of puts into perspective all the characters that you've been following in the first half of the movie. And the rest of the movie is very intense, very like psychedelic. It's one of those movies that needs to be seen in theaters, because if you watch it at home, you will get kind of like the same effect, but kind of like a little bit lesser compared to like seeing it in theaters. But this was one of my favorite like theater experiences compared to like some other films that I have on this list. But I think it's probably because like the reason why I have this at number 10 is just like the experience alone. And then moving on to like number 9, I have Sinners. I don't need to explain anything else about this movie. Like it's been talked about to death by everybody. So if you don't know what Sinners is by now, then what are you doing? Just like go see the movie. Number 8, I have Resurrection by Be Gone. This is another film that I can't really fully explain because it's one of those movies that needs to be experienced and kind of felt. you're basically following a future where dreams are captured inside of like this device, this briefcase device. And one of the characters that you're following in the beginning of the film opens this case, and it starts to open up all these dreams from like several eras of filmmaking. And you're basically following a group of characters who are like in these dreams trying to live their dreams. And it starts out with like the silent era with like the silent German expressionist techniques, and then eventually it moves forward to the future and then back to the rural ancient era of China, and then just moves back to kind of like the 70s 80s era of like gangster films. And then the movie ends with a section in the 90s in 1999 before New Year's Day, and you're following these two lovers who are just going across this area in this small town, and it's a entire like 30-minute long take, no like breaks or anything. You just following like these two characters going through like this town while they're getting chased by like a couple gangsters, and the whole film ends in a way where it's basically explaining the whole entire journey of like filmmaking and how far we've gotten from, you know, these techniques, but also at the same time, it ends perfectly at 1999 where filmmaking was at its peak. And after 1999, that's where things
just goes downhill.
It goes downhill from there. But
funny.
yeah, this movie kind of shook me, and it was one of those movies that I think if you understand and know like some of the techniques of filmmaking, this will definitely like hit hard with you. And then number 7, I have Sentimental Value. This was the first movie I caught at TIFF with a bunch of friends, Dom, Nathaniel, and some other people that we had in our group. And this one really shook me because it's basically kind of just like Resurrection, where you're basically following the techniques of filmmaking, but now you have a family, the father who's trying to make a movie about their daughter, but the daughter declines the role for, you know, the movie. And then the daughter decides to kind of be distant away from like the father and the other sister in the family. And then it turns into a whole situation where like the family is trying to be together while this film is trying to be made. And Joachim Trier, he's one of my favorite directors. I do think The Worst Person in the World is my favorite Joachim Trier movie, but this is still really great. And I don't really need to explain deeper about this movie because it's already been talked about during this award season. So I'm going to leave it at that. And then finally at number 6, I have Hamnet. This is the new Chloe Zhao movie about William Shakespeare and his creation of Hamlet, the play, or Hamnet, if you kind of like know the history behind it. And it basically also follows William Shakespeare and how he dealt with like the death of his son Hamnet. And it was kind of like a very moving film. And Jessie Buckley like easily gives one of the best performances of the year or last year. And Paul Mescal does the same thing also as well. And yeah, it's one of those movies where when it was announced, I was just like, oh, like I think Chloe Zhao, she kind of has, you know, the juice, but I don't know if her kind of like sensibilities from coming from like the Marvel sphere is going to like, you know, apply to this movie. And I'm glad she kind of left all that stuff away from like her past movie. And now she's kind of like going back to her old ways, but now in like a traditional sense. This is kind of like a throwback to like the 90s era of like costume dramas, you know, like the Harvey Weinstein era of like costume dramas. So this was like really nice to like see that kind of like return to form for Chloe Zhao. But yeah, this one was really great.
Yeah, definitely. Fun fact, got to see this at TIFF sitting next to Iman Vellani, Miss Marvel herself. Just a little bit of a humble brag there. All right, Kristen, going down to you. What are some of your honorable mentions, and then followed by your 10 through 6 of the year?
Let me just say, oh my gosh, I have so many honorable mentions. I wish I got to see Serana in a theater, but I didn't, because seeing it at home, I'm sure, is totally different seeing it in a theater. But great score. But in terms of my honorable mentions, I have a lot of different things here in my honorable mentions, including a lot of anime films, including like Demon Slayer, you know, Part 1 arc, Chainsaw Man. I just saw K-pop Demon Hunters recently, and I'm like, dang, this would have been in my like top 20 if anything. But I also enjoyed some like indie horror movies like Dangerous Animals, Silent Night, Deadly Night, the new remake for the new Silent Night, Deadly Night ones. I enjoyed excuse me, The Ugly Stepsister, Good Boy, lots of great like indie horror movies that I really enjoyed in 2025. I also enjoyed films like Roofman, The Housemaid, Train Dreams, Twinless, I Love You Forever. But there was one film I also really enjoyed that was really close to making it in my top 10. It's going to come out in March of 2026. It's called Omaha. It premiered last year at Sundance. See it. It is heartbreaking. It leads to one heartbreak that really got me and then had me in tears. Like, can't even imagine. It's really heartbreaking. But one big honorable mention is Warfare. I really love that. And as well as Begonia, Superman, and Companion. Those were really close to also making it in my top 10. But starting at number 10 is one of the most talked about horror movies of 2025, and that is Weapons. I think Zach Krieger, whatever you want to pronounce his name, I think is on like a new career high of directing, unique horror films that are just not just terrifying, but also horrifying. I think this is the most talked about horror movie besides Sinners that we saw for the summer of 2025. And Amy Madigan is stellar. The whole cast is incredibly on a whole nother level. I really enjoyed the storytelling of it and just some wild, crazy stuff just happening with that story. I did not know what was going to happen next. And I really enjoyed it. Love seeing this in a theater with a packed crowd. So I really dig it. I'm rooting for Amy for this award season, but I'm sure we'll see her win tomorrow at the Golden Globes. Coming in at number 9 for me is Materialist. I'm sure not many people are including this in their top 10 of, 2025, but I loved this so much. I love this more than Celine's songs Past Lives. I know, crazy take.
Wow, that is a hot
Oh, dang.
take right now.
I'll get a wow.
Wow.
Get a wow out of me on that
Hey,
one. I'll take a wow.
let's
Hopeless
take one
romantic,
big
right?
step back.
I
Oh,
know,
man.
I know. Crazy.
What should I expect from this stream?
That's unbelievable.
That's whack.
Past Lives is one of the
Crazy.
best
I
movies of the last
know,
5
crazy.
years.
I know, but I'm a hopeless romance, like when it's a sweater. But yes, I love this movie. This is the best Dakota Johnson has ever been, and it's also the best Chris Evans has ever been in. It only took him 5 years to find a good film to see his amazing acting chops. But now he's going back to Avengers. Shame on you. We know what we saw.
His agent hates him. Let's just be honest
We know
here.
what we saw in what happened to Steve Rogers. Now he's crawling back. I'm sorry, Chris Evans. I love you, but that was the wrong move. But at least we can honor him in the Materials. Love the story and how that played out. It's an interesting, unique premise. It's also like a love drama, comedy. There's like a lot of things that I really enjoyed about this movie. And yeah, I'll just end it with that. Okay, next up, something that also premiered at TIFF, but in 2024, and that is The Life of Chuck. I think this is a different departure for Mike Flanagan because we all know him from directing, horror stuff. But this was a movie that really felt like cinema to me and just got me through all different types of emotions. And I just love the cast in this. Even the small part we get from Mark Hamill. Loved that scene. And the Tom Hiddleston dance. Oh my God. And it's choreographed by
Best scenes of the year.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. And it choreographed no other than Mandy Moore, who choreographed La La Land and the Taylor Swift Eras tour. Like, oh, girl, she delivered on that. So everything in that film got me through all sorts of emotions. Really enjoyed that. So Life of Chuck for my number 8th pick. Then we have number 7, which I saw at my local film festival, the Montclair Film Festival, a film that I really enjoyed and loved getting to see this because this is not the first time I got to see Brendan Fraser give a talk at the Montclair Film Festival, but the second time, and that is Rental Family. I don't think enough people were talking about this more during award season. Brendan Fraser is a gift. He's a treasure. I will defend that man in any capacity. He is just like a giant teddy bear, and he's so emotional in Rental
Giant
Family.
whale?
Yeah. Oh, I love the whale.
Oh man.
I love the whale.
Oh, this is getting spicy. This is getting
Okay.
spicy.
Well,
I love the whale too.
On one note, the new Mummy movie got terrible test screening. So
Oh,
Yeah, I saw James
yeah.
Wan walked out. I saw
No.
James Wan
Yeah,
walked
yeah.
out.
Oh no.
yeah. So it bodes even better for the Brendan Fraser
That's
Rachel
true.
Weisz.
Yeah, we're all
I-
rooting for that. We're all
I,
rooting for that.
I blame Aronofsky for the whale more than Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser did nothing wrong.
Yes.
Oh,
Brendan
yeah,
Fraser
you're
can
right.
do nothing
I
wrong. We all
I
love
agree
that
with
man
that.
here. We all love that man here. I hope I see some Brendan Fraser fans in the chat. But Rental Family, this is about like connection and finding almost like a family of your own. And just the way that this film was so passionate about finding said connection when you feel alone, it's unlike anything that I saw exploring connection in 2025. There is one movie that does a great job of also exploring connection, finding, another person that, you can have fun and do all sorts of things with. But the families that Brendan gets to interact with the movie are just, crying. This movie also had me crying besides another movie that I previously talked about, Omaha, but fantastic film, Rental Family. And then I have to say my number 6.
Yep.
Okay, I see a Marty Supreme fan over there, Jack. So Marty Supreme is coming in at my number 6. I wish I made this higher, but Marty Supreme, I don't need to talk anything other than just like Timothée Chalamet is excellent here. We had Josh, what is it? The Safdie one. Josh, thank you.
Josh.
I always got him mixed up. I always get... All right, we all know which brother had the better film this year, and it was Josh. He perfected this film. It's interesting that they both were A24 movies that like Ben and Josh released this year, and they were both like sports movies in a way. Ping pong's not totally the concept.
It's definitely a sports movie.
It is a sports movie. So it's just great to see that one brother came out on top, directing a fantastic film with a great cast, intense story, and I loved it. I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did, but Timothée Chalamet proved that he is like almost the younger, like Leonardo DiCaprio of this generation, where he is a method actor. So I really enjoyed Marty Supreme. Love the filmmaking style. It's frantic. It's a whole other level. If you go see Marty Supreme, I'm sure you'll experience it on a different level. So, but shout out to the woman who was in my front row of Marty Supreme and had her phone at the most intense scene, the final act. I had to yell, "Put your phone away!" Like, are you crazy for taking your phone out? And one of the craziest parts in the film. Shame on you. But that's my number 6. So, hope you enjoyed the tea of
awesome
materials.
Love it. Great. I would expect nothing else from this stream. Like I said, if we don't have some shenanigans on the stream, we're not doing our jobs right. All right, Lou, moving over to you. Some honorable mentions followed by your 10 through 6.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my honorable mentions brief because you guys have hit a lot of the other films that would have been on there. So I'm going to single out 2 just because Sinners didn't end up in my top 10. I do want to shout out Sinners, the Rocky Road to Dublin scene. Like, I was levitating. Just super impressive stuff. I just ended up like not really loving the movie, though I think the technical achievements and Michael B. Jordan's performance are incredible. It just didn't quite crack the top, but I think it's worth a mention. And then one that I haven't heard yet is Lurker. Lurker,
get into it.
Oh, all right. So Lurker was
I still
in my
need
top
to see
10.
that. I heard so many good things.
So good.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either.
So good.
Lurker was in my top 10, and then I realized I forgot Marty Supreme, and I was like, I kind of got to put Marty Supreme in my top 10. So Lurker got the boot. It's my number 11, but that's Alex Russell, who's been a writer or producer on some of the coolest news shows like The Bear, Beef, Dave, and this is his writing and directing debut. It's super great, very, very modern, kind of about social media influencers and stuff like that. I want to specifically call out Archie Madueke, who is the main he's the performer that the kid is obsessed with. He is incredible. Like, I can't. Oh, he was in
Saltburn.
Saltburn, and he's really good in Saltburn too.
And he's also the lead kid in the criminally underrated Gran Turismo.
From gamer to racist.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, Lurker and Sinners. Probably 11 and 12, wherever you want to put them. And then my number 10. This is a schizophrenic list, guys. F1, the movie. I love sports movies. And this is one of the best sports movies that I've seen in a while. Reminded me a lot of Rush. This movie, from a technical standpoint, is unbelievable. Joe Kosinski comes back again from Maverick, hits another home run, and it just taking something that shouldn't work. Like, this should just be a cash grab racing movie. And for some reason, he is able to string it all together. Brad Pitt performance is very, very good. And what's his name? Damson Idris. It's the first time I've seen him. He plays the other younger driver, the rookie. Incredible performance. And then you get Kerry Condon on top of it. So F1, it's just a popcorn, awesome sports flick, but it's in my top 10 because I think it'll be the movie from this year that I'll probably end up watching the most. Number 9, apparently controversial, Eddington. I am a sucker for Ari Aster. I've loved every Ari Aster movie. This one is no different. I think some of the themes and stuff that he's hitting on are very prescient. I think he handles them in a pretty good way. I know some people don't think so. We did an episode on it, Chris and I, and we had a really fun conversation about it. I think it's one of those movies that's almost more fun to talk about than it is to actually just watch for 2.5 hours. But I think the Joaquin Phoenix performance is incredible. There's a shot where he's sitting in the car watching or recording himself. And it's just one of the coolest, like kind of intimate social media moments I've seen on the screen in a long time. And I think a guy like Ari Aster being able to work kind of our modern lives and phones and social media and how they're influencing us was pretty brilliant. Number 8, Marty Supreme. I'll just say everything everybody said about it is true. It is fast paced. It does not stop. Timothée Chalamet, this is his performance. Like, this is the come out party. This is Catch Me If You Can. This is, everything that you could ever hope for. He's been the kind of young dreamboat kid. He's been in the Little Women and stuff like that. This is his come out party. Put the camera on my face and I will carry us. Incredible performance. 28 years later. I'm a huge sucker for this franchise. I love Alex Garland. I love Danny Boyle. I think this is, an incredible achievement for these guys to come back and put the type of work that they put into this movie. They didn't really have to bother. Come on, this is 28 years later. It hasn't come out in like over a decade. So I think the fact that they cared about this project so much, put as much work into it, the cinematography is next level. It's out of control. And then Ray Fiennes on the back end, stellar performance. And then I will cap it off with my number 6. This one I am super excited to talk about. Left-Handed Girl.
Ooh, that's a good one.
This is a debut by, I'm going to not pronounce this correctly, but I will do my best. Shishing Shao. And then it is written by Sean Baker, who came out into the national audience last year with Anora. This movie reminded me a lot of his movie before Anora, Florida Project. And that movie I like much more than Anora. So I really enjoyed Sean Baker getting back from a writing perspective to this. And then Xixing Zhao on the directing. It is a tight movie. It is in the city in Taipei. And it just shows a slice of life. And there's just something really, really cool about that, especially when it's from in a different country. So I'm experiencing all these things that I would never experience probably in my life. Small, fun, and just deeply heartbreaking movie at the end. Left-Handed Girl.
Yeah, I heard good things about that at TIFF. I was very sad that I didn't get a chance to see it. All right, Pat, going over to you. Your honorable mentions and 10 through 6. What do you got?
All right, I'll try to run through these honorable mentions quickly. I got go with Hamnet. We'll go with Splitsville, a movie I recommended to a friend of mine for a romantic comedy, and he Venmoed me.
Yes,
10.
Splitsville.
Yeah, but he hated it, and he actually sent me a Venmo request for the rental. But whatever, that's fine. Phoenician Scheme, F1, Presence, which I think was the first movie I saw in 2025.
Yep.
Roofman, which probably would have made about $200 million if it came out in the 90s, I felt like.
Yeah.
But here we are. Frankenstein, Wake Up Dead Man, Warfare. I'll throw Thunderbolts on here because I did enjoy it. Blue Moon, Caught Stealing, Superman. And I'm going to put Long Walk and Sinners just outside for almost the same reason. Long Walk made me cry twice. And I was really upset it didn't make me cry a third time for the ending that I thought it kind of botched a bit. And Sinners, I thought was incredible for like 90% of it. I honestly didn't like the action kind of climax where everything where shit hits the fan. I just thought it didn't work. Post-credit scene's amazing, but I'm glad for all the award recognition it's going to be getting. I think it's unfortunately going to be a little bit more of a bridesmaid, except for technical awards. But we'll see. So yeah, and then all right. So my top 10, I got another Steven Soderbergh movie in Black Bag.
All right.
Which came out early in the year. And to me, it was it's more this mature version of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I guess. But it was so kind of refreshing to see something that was just more, I don't know, just mature and just like not that you really get these days. And I think that's why this stayed in my top 10 all year. Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. Great cast, Blanchett and Fassbender, and just Pierce Brosnan. Just everyone on top of the game. It felt like Soderbergh, like out of sight Soderbergh to me. And I kind of missed that guy a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my number 10. Number 9, I got Eddington, which, I remember sitting down, that started, and there's that first conversation in it about masks, and you got to wear it right, you got to do this, and I thought, oh my god, I do not want to relive this for 3 hours. And the movie then continues to do that, but yeah, no, I thought it drew the line perfectly. Joaquin Phoenix is great. My favorite Pedro Pascal performance of the year. I think. Yeah. But yeah, and I thought it was better than Beau is Afraid as far as Ari Aster goes. But yeah, so I got Eddington at 9. I get anyone that doesn't like it. That's fair. No issues. I completely understand. Number 8, I'm going with One Battle After Another. I've only seen this once. This probably would go higher if I saw it again. Just again, when it got to like the third hour, it was getting a little long in the tooth. Then there's that great chase scene and everything like that. Yeah, I think if I see it again, I'll put it a little higher. This happens to me on Paul Thomas Anderson movies. It happened with The Master too. I was like, I need to see this again to figure out where I would rank it. But yeah, everyone's great. It's likely winning Best Picture, and PTA is likely winning Best Director, which is cool for him. Just rewatched Boogie Nights the other day because I got it on 4K. It still holds up. Number 7, I got No Other Choice. Park Chan-wook. I saw this on Christmas. It felt like one of his most subdued movies, which is oddly, even though it was like satire. There were a few moments where it got into insanity, but I remember walking in thinking I was going to get a little more of like Handmaiden kind of situation, and it was a little bit less than that. So walking out, there was a little bit of disappointment originally, but again, sitting with it, yeah, I just thought it was like razor sharp satire, and it's just really, really well done. And then, sorry, my number 6 is Bugonia. I had this lower, and I brought it higher after seeing it again, this time without playing the guessing game that you play the whole time of who's telling, of is she an alien, is she not an alien? So I wanted to see it again to see how it holds up without that in your mind the second time, and I thought it got even better. Basically a two-hander with Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons, who are both brilliant. I'm hoping Jesse Plemons can sneak in for award stuff, but we'll see. Great ending as well, and a great bounce back after Kinds of Kindness for me for Yorgos. I thought it was much better, but yeah, that's my 10 through 6.
All right, awesome, good stuff from all of you. Despite some slight discourse, these are all great choices. All right, getting into mine. So I'm going to run through my honorable mentions, but I also want to give a shout out to some underrated movies that I think, kind of got a little bit hated on that I just enjoyed, because the thing about all 2 of these movies at least is I'm like, and Pat, it's funny because I literally said this to Mike when I watched this, because I was questioned by many people. They're like, why are you wasting your time with these movies? I'm like, because you guys don't understand. These movies were made for me. I don't give a shit if Tron Ares made $0 at the box office. I don't care if Now You See Me, Now You Don't was completely unnecessary and barely functioned as a movie. I am watching those movies for me. I have been waiting for to see those specific movies in theaters for over a decade for both of them. So I just really wanted to give a shout out to those who just had an absolute blast. Walked out of both those movies with a big old smile on my face. And then The Running Man, which is a movie that by all rights, I'm surprised Well, I mean, I shouldn't be surprised because I feel like the problem is that every person that watches an Edgar Wright movie now is going in expecting the Cornetto trilogy, and the problem is that the Cornetto trilogy's best days are behind it now. But for what The Running Man was, I quite enjoyed it. From what I understand, it was very closer. It was much closer to the Stephen King original than the Arnold one from the 80s.
It was. I read the book, so I in my opinion, Edgar Wright did a good job with it. And then seeing the Comic-Con panel and then reading the book, it was just like a whole nother level. So getting to hear Running Man is a nice honorable mention.
Yeah, of course. I enjoyed it. It was what's it called? It was Glenn Powell on a little bit of a heater sort of this year with Chad Powers and this, and then with I think one of the best rewatchables this year where he guest starred on their rewatchables for the Truman Show, which was really cool. And what's it called? And also Stephen King weirdly on a heater too, because he had this, he had The Monkey, he had Life of Chuck, which opened wide, he had Long Walk, like so a lot of Stephen King that we
Welcome to Derry also.
Welcome to Derry, exactly.
Welcome to Derry.
Took all of Stranger Things mojo away, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
it definitely did. All right, so then running through my honorable mentions. So I have Warfare. I have Fantastic Four First Steps. I don't care if I'm the only one that liked that. I think they finally got the Fantastic Four right in live action, and it wasn't The Incredibles. So that's all that I asked for. I really, really quite enjoyed that. California Schemin', which is James McAvoy's directorial debut that I saw at TIFF about a Scottish rapper duo who pretended to be American and actually sort of worked, and they ended up blowing up big. Their names are Syllable and Brains. You can still go and listen to their music. It's all over Spotify. I quite enjoyed that. Superman, Spike Lee's Highest to Lowest. Had an absolute blast with that. Saw that with Jack on my birthday. We had a good time with that. Despite the fact that we all know which was the better of the two Safdie movies this year, I still very much enjoyed watching Smashing Machine. The experience of getting to see that at TIFF and also the way in which I got to see that at TIFF was really cool. Is This Thing On? Bradley Cooper's third directorial feature that just opened in theater. My favorite of his three movies that he's directed. My favorite of his three movies that he's directed easily. It's his smallest. It's his least grandiose. It's his most intimate. It's his most personal. I think it's probably the best representation I've ever seen of stand-up comedy on film in any way, shape, or form. So I thought that was really, really underrated, kind of, nice one that snuck in near the end of the year, and I really, really enjoyed it. And so, Luke, you talked about Lurker before, so now I'm going to mention Lurker because what was interesting about Lurker is that Lurker kind of existed as what I call this weird trinity of movies that happened this year that I have come to call the toxic male friendship trilogy that started with Friendship, the Tim Robinson movie that came out back in May. Then it continued with Lurker in August, and then it wrapped 1 month later with a movie that debuted at Sundance that then ended up opening wide in September, that being Twinless with Dylan O'Brien and James Sweeney.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I gotta give a movie. All three of those movies kind of formed this very weird synergistic because all three of those movies were about kind of parasitic male relationships where you've got friendship where Tim Robinson is, of course, doing his usual shtick. Who knew that was just going to be a warm up for the absolute insanity that was The Chair Company later this year? But more on that if you want to go check out my top 10 best TV shows of the year, where Tim Robinson is trying to make friends desperately with Paul Rudd, the cool guy, and it's such a weird take and examination on trying to be friends with someone despite the fact that you kind of embarrass yourself and break all social norms to do it. Then you have Lurker, which was literally I think probably this very, very strange merger between it was Nightcrawler and one other movie that I completely forgot about, but it was literally just all about kind of the idea of Talented Mr. Ripley. That's why it's Talented Mr. Ripley meets Nightcrawler, this movie, and it is one of the most chilling and frightening examinations of the lengths to which one will go to in order to get that level of fame and prestige and adoration. And this is just truly one of those movies. This is, I think, the only time where I've ever seen this where a movie literally made me uncomfortable sitting there watching it. I was literally squirming in my seat, being can this end already, please? The scene where him and Archie end up wrestling, I still get goosebumps just thinking about that scene. And then it wraps with Twinless, which is one of the most bizarre, baffling, hilarious, unpredictable movies that I've seen so far this year. I think that movie deals with twin dynamics and getting past the death of a loved one in ways that are both so accurate and in a way that I've never seen before. Also, it also captures a very, very specific dynamic, which is the friendship that develops between heterosexual males and homosexual males. I think that dynamic is such a specific one that this movie really, really nailed. And like I said, the fact that all three of these movies came out in the same year. Like, I'll be interested to see if like anybody else picks up on this trend as time goes on. And then Testament of Van Lee, which I saw at TIFF, very, very much enjoyed that. Avatar: Fire and Ash, had an absolute blast with that. Got to give a shout out to my guy James Cameron whenever I get the chance. And Frankenstein, Guillermo del Toro's adaptation of the Mary Shelley novel, which was in my top 10 until I saw Marty Supreme, and then it got knocked out. So going into my 10 through 6, my number 10 is a movie that I had a chance to see at TIFF. I ultimately ended up deciding to see The Secret Agent at TIFF. The Secret Agent did not make my top 10, but this movie, man, I heard some good things about it. And this filmmaker is an absolute badass just for the way in which that he was able to get this film made. And that was Jafar Panahi's It Was Just an Accident. Oh man, like, talk about a movie that you have got to have no idea what this movie is about going in. This movie is shot without permits from the Iranian government. So this film, literally, there is kind of like a tension and like a race against the clock kind of feel that is reflective of the filmmaking process itself, because Panahi is literally trying to get these shots in like before he gets arrested ultimately. The film itself, so that kind of ties into my next note as well, where the film itself exists as like a piece of resistance / frustration with / critique of the Iranian government. Panahi himself has been expressly forbidden from making films there multiple times, but it's done so anyway. Also, despite its heavy subject matter, the film is quite funny. The general premise is that it follows an auto repair mechanic who recognizes the patriarch of a family whose car breaks down outside his store as someone who tortured him for speaking out against the government. He kidnaps him, but he is unable to confirm his identity, so he goes around rounding up various and assorted other people from his time in prison, leading to a series of bizarre and wacky scenarios that just get more ridiculous. This was just a movie where I'm sitting there throughout this entire runtime, and I don't think it even hits 2 hours. I think it's like clocks in just under 2 hours, and I just could not move for the entire time. Just like understanding the implications of the movie, understanding like kind of how risky and daring it was for both the filmmaker and like the characters within the movie to be doing what they're doing, but also for just how unbelievably funny it was. And it's the best kind of humor because it's humor that all comes from just character interactions and character choices ultimately, and all their like kind of different reactions to where they're because the thing is, this one guy goes up to all these different guys, all of they're in like the middle of like their regular lives. Like one's a wedding photographer, and another one is one of the bride in question, and then they just get this other random guy, and they're just going around and picking up all of these different random people, just poking them out of their lives and seeing them kind of like all come together to try and right this wrong that was slighted on all of them, and just seeing all of their different reactions to it. And it ends in a way that no one will see coming, and also just leaves one just absolutely just unnerved. Like you literally leave the theater like even more paranoid if someone's watching you. So it was just truly an experience unlike any other that I saw this year. My number 9 was a movie that, again, it's very interesting that people are talking about Roofman, where that movie would have made a lot of money if it had come out in the 90s. This one is kind of similar, but in the sense of where this movie, I feel like, was just evoking more of like that 90s style of filmmaking, specifically, that like kind of down-to-earth, greasy, grimy New York feel, and that is Caught Stealing, Darren Aronofsky's 9th directorial day feature. Just an absolute blast. Absolute blast to watch. It could not get more opposite of The Whale if you tried. The Whale was just so miserably depressing and just wanted to steep you in depression. This movie was just a rip-roaring fun time, and kind of in the opposite of It Was Just an Accident, which has some pretty heavy subject matter, but is all about like kind of the humor of it. This one is like, it's pitched as like being pretty humorous, but ends up being way more tragic than one would think. It stars Austin Butler in a 90s New York period piece as a barback working in the Lower East Side who finds himself in the middle of a conflict involving multiple sets of gangsters after his neighbor leaves him in charge of his cat. This is an ensemble cast including Zoe Kravitz, Regina King, Bad Bunny, Matt Smith, Liev Schreiber, Vincent D'Onofrio, and insane supporting performance from one of the 2 Russian people. This guy's name is Nikita Kukushkin, and this guy is literally like a bulldog on methamphetamines if he was in human form. I cannot think of another way to describe him. Very reminiscent of Tarantino with a dash of After Hours, and ironically, the movie also stars Griffin Dunn, which I think is really fun. Definitely, easily one of my favorite theatrical experiences of the year. And I'm going to go into a little bit of spoilers with this one plot point, but it was so insane that I could not forget it. So, has anybody here seen Enemy of the State, the Tony Scott movie?
Yeah,
I have.
Okay,
Will Smith. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So famously in that movie, right? Will Smith is married to Regina King, but he has a ex-girlfriend of his that that sometimes relays information to him, who then unfortunately ends up tragically dying in the movie as a result of everything that happens. Who is Lisa Bonet's daughter? Zoe Kravitz.
Zoe. Oh, right. Yeah,
And I will say that the baffling irony of the fact that Zoe Kravitz gets iced in this movie almost the exact same way that her mom gets iced in Enemy of the State, and the fact that Regina King is also in this movie, that was way too big of a coincidence for me to notice. I'm like, that is an insane level of like 6 degrees right there. But this is just an absolute, really great, really fun time.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
shout out to the cat.
Yeah, shout out to the cat.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. Now, my number 8, I did a little bit of last minute shifting around, but that is only because this is a movie, while yes, it is most likely going to win Best Picture, it is not my favorite Paul Thomas Anderson movie, and I do not think that it is as good as everyone else did. One battle after another. That being said, it is an absolute glorious, rip-roaring time, right with social commentary as far as everything that is going on throughout the year. Loose adaptation of Vineland by Thomas Pynchon that PTA has been attempting to work on for the better part of 20 years, following a group of former revolutionaries called the French 75 as they're committing acts of domestic terrorism revolution before being forced into hiding domesticity due to an unexpected relationship that develops between one of their members and a fascist military leader portrayed by Sean Penn. Years later, after Tiana Taylor's disappearance, Lockjaw reemerges to hunt down her daughter, going under the assumed name of Willa Ferguson, portrayed by Chase Infinity, due to the belief that she's his biological daughter, which could prevent him from becoming a member of the Order of Saint Nick, group of white supremacists populated by members of Jim Downey, all hail Saint Nick. We all know the running joke. Meeting Will's assumed father, Pat.
That's how good it is. It's even funny out of context.
Exactly.
That's how someone wished me a Merry Christmas this year.
Literally. And that's the highlight of the movie, is the movie knows what it is doing, and it is easily one of the funniest movies of the year. It might be Paul Thomas Anderson's funniest movie, which is saying something considering that this is the same dude who made Boogie Nights. But again, just the fact that we have such iconic lines, as you guys know, the iconic Sean Penn line when he runs into DiCaprio in the store, but you know, the I'm not a homosexual, if that's what you're thinking, the set it off reference when they're ripping off the bag. Like, this movie is chock full of incredible one-liners. I guess my problem with it is that, like some other Paul Thomas Anderson movies, its structural problems are kind of what make it unique and in and of itself. But I do have problems with the way the story plays itself out, and ultimately the fact that DiCaprio's character is ultimately kind of irrelevant within the story. Like, it's one of those instances where you could, it's a little bit of a Kurt Russell from Big Trouble in Little China situation. You could almost take him out of the movie and the movie would make no difference, and it would kind of just keep going. But that being said, again, just still had a really, really great time with this. It is truly like one of the defining movies of the year. Breakout performance from Chase Infinity. The fact that Benicio is so beloved in his small role just for this few small beers line that it's going to get him an Oscar nomination. His first one in several years. Sean Penn is just... he is just on another level in this movie. Like, I can't even, like, the amount of... he's constantly walking around like he's constantly going to explode every minute. That's just how good he is, ultimately. And, of course, again, it is perfectly fitting that a dude who wants to become a member of the Church of St. Nick also has a crippling, debilitating love of black women. Again, that could not be more relevant as far as, basically just making fun of almost every Republican, at least in Congress, at least, how every evangelical Christian is secretly gay. So I had to get into that little bit right there. My number 7 is a movie that I actually saw even before I got to see it with you, Jack, at TIFF, and that is Sentimental Value. This is a movie, so I famously did not see The Worst Person in the World when it came out back in 2021. So this one was a little bit of a new one for me. I did not know what to expect going in, and I was pleasantly surprised, but I didn't love it the first time that I saw it. I saw this at a test screening back in June, right after it had won the runner-up prize for Cannes back in May. And then I saw it again at TIFF in September, and this is where I'm like, oh, this is where this really, really hits home. Because the thing about this is, in terms of capturing both the family dynamic, which again is another dynamic that is so specific and really, really difficult to get right on screen, while also capturing the idea of kind of broken families, kind of how each individual family member's traumas from their childhood, kind of inform them, but also can unintentionally, pass through into multiple generations later. And also the fact that the film is so much tied to the identity of the house, the fact that this house has been in their family for so many generations, and the house is kind of carrying around the reflective traumas of all of the past family members and everything that they've gone through. They reflect over the fact that Stellan Skarsgård's mother in this movie was captured and taken away for questioning and was never seen again. So you kind of have, all these different family members, like I said, the relationship between the father portrayed by Stellan Skarsgård and his two daughters portrayed by Renata Rensby and Inga Ib's daughter Lilias, and kind of how that tension is in a way kind of necessary because ultimately it's a movie about filmmaking as well, and how I hate to make this critique because it's just a hackneyed comment, but basically how film brings us all together ultimately, because at the end of the day, Skarsgård ultimately is making this movie, the movie within the movie, I should say, in order to bond further with his daughter. And even though she turns him down and kind of, he attempts to recreate that with another famous Hollywood actress portrayed by Elle Fanning, and you can just tell everybody kind of has this come to Jesus moment near the end where they realize, it's not going to work the way that it is that you want to, because this is so indicative and personal to you that you can only make this with your daughter. And it ultimately results in this very beautiful cathartic ending that, again, is kind of uncharacteristic of most mainstream movies, but I think in this sense is kind of the only way in which it would have worked. So it hit me in a way that I just wasn't expecting. And then my number 6, I got to give a shout out to my buddy Mike Alvarez, who in his description, it's funny because I talked about the toxic male friendship trilogy, and he was saying how the relationship between this movie, which has also just made your top 10 list, Pat, One Battle, and Eddington, how all three of those movies also performed this like unexpected trilogy that are all describing how Americans specifically are kind of just lost their minds after the pandemic. And then so basically Eddington is for the right, One Battle is for the left, and then Begonia is for the disenfranchised. My number 6, easily my most favorite. My favorite Yorgos movie to date. Oh man, like talk about somebody who has been on a hot streak. And keep in mind, this is somebody who famously I was not a fan of when I first discovered him in college. I thought The Lobster was okay. I famously despised Killing of a Sacred Deer. And it wasn't until The Favorite came out that I'm like, okay, I kind of sort of see what this dude is going for now. And then I saw Poor Things, which made my top, which I think made everybody here's top 10 of 2023. I was a big fan of Kinds of Kindness. I can understand why that one would be a little bit divisive. But this one, man, this is like just the perfect capitulation of everything that he's been working for his entire career. It is just the perfect embodiment of his pitch black cynicism of, humanity at its best and absolute worst. About two brothers who work for an Amazon-esque pharmaceutical corporation who are also part-time beekeepers who kidnap the CEO of their organization under suspicion that she's an alien. It's the rare instance of it to have your cake and eat it too movie. And most of the time that doesn't work, but in this instance it does, because the tension from the back and forth of, okay, either these two are absolute complete nut jobs who are just too chronically online that and they have kidnapped, and they just have this very rightfully justified ire against this CEO, whose pharmaceuticals have basically resulted in the death of their mother, or they're right, and the CEO is an alien. And the movie's like kind of balancing act going back and forth as far as never telling you what could be like true or not up until the very end, where it kind of shows, oh, maybe both things were true. Who knows? Was this whole thing a hallucination? Who knows? But regardless, just the absolute terrifying sequences that come from this movie. Also, one of the most disturbing uses of Basket Case by Green Day I've ever seen in a Reservoir Dogs-esque torture sequence. Like, oh man, like Yorgos knows what he was doing. Man, it was so funny because when I saw this with Mike, Mike had already seen an earlier screening of this. So, Pat, so it was me, Mike, our coworker Mike, who you're friends, our boss Mike, who you're friends with, and then our friend Richie from school. And throughout the whole movie, I'm just like shrinking further and further into my seat. I'm looking over at Mike, and Mike has this big wolf's cackle grin on his face the whole time as he's just watching us react to it. And I just came out of it, and I'm like, what the fuck? But like, that was one of the best movies of the year, easily. And I could not stop laughing. I could not stop being horrified. It was just had such a blast with it.
Do you mind if I say something? And it's a shame that Aiden Delbus is not getting that award season recognition because there's no words to describe how incredible this young talent was. It's his first film. He's someone who has a disability on the autism spectrum. It's amazing what he achieved here. And knowing that he's not getting the true recognition, and we're talking about having more diversity in Hollywood, nobody's recognizing him. And he's incredible here. So I hope we see more Aiden
I agree.
in the
Again,
future.
one of the best instances. Another incredible instance of the use of a non-actor, where again, it's like I would be surprised if he got much direction from Yorgos, because you could just tell that just like how he is, and it's just
he's kind of the heart of the movie. He's like
really
the humanity in the movie.
He
humanity
is.
in the movie.
the
He's
most
like-
tragic scene in the movie.
I wanted to give him a hug so badly and just say, "Come on
Yeah.
out. You got to get away from your cousin. Just
Also,
come on. You got to
guys,
get
like
away from this guy."
that whole Stavros scene, basically telling us without telling
Yeah.
us exactly what it. Just like
Yeah.
man, really making us feel some things. All right, so that is my 10 through 6. So just doing another quick roundtable roundup. So Jack's 10 through 6. Jack has Surratt, Sinners, Resurrection, Sentiment of Value, and Hamnet. Kristen, you've got Weapons, Materialist, Life of Chuck, Rental Family, and Marty Supreme. Luke, you've got F1, Eddington, Marty Supreme, 28 Years Later, and Left-Handed Girl. Pat, you've got Black Bag, Eddington, One Battle After Another, No Other Choice, and Begonia. And I have It Was Just an Accident, Caught Stealing, One Battle After Another, Sentiment of Value, and Begonia. All right, Jack, going back over to you. Your 5 through 2. What do you got?
Okay, so number 5, you already talked about this movie, but I'm going to say it again or say it loudly. It Was Just an Accident by Jafar Panahi. This movie just like wrecked me, and I caught this also at TIFF. It was like around like 9 o'clock, and it was one of those, I think, last few movies that I had to like check out before I left Toronto. And yeah, like the way you described the movie was really interesting, but also just like I'm taking like everything into account, like how Jafar Panahi made the movie in the shadows while he was being chased by like the government. And yeah, man, like this movie wrecked me. I don't again need to say too much about it because Dom already explained like the plot through and through, but like the final scene in this movie is one of the most chilling scenes that I've seen this year, and it really kind of like made me think about like the whole entire journey of like all the characters that you were following in this film. So I had that at number 5. Number 4, I have Marty Supreme, and yeah, of course, this is the better Safdie movie that came out this year. I was kind of like a fan of like The Smashing Machine. I really liked that movie. But this is again another great Safdie movie. Sure, it's following the same kind of formula that we've seen in the past 2 films, but now there's a little bit more of like optimism and hope, especially with following this character who is very extremely like egotistic. But there's like a shimmer of like, man, like I want this guy to actually achieve this like big dream. And Timothée Chalamet gives probably like his best performance to date, in my opinion. Although I do have a soft spot for his performance in Bones and All, but that's just me.
Nice.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but yeah, this movie just really took me through like a wave of like emotions. All the characters, yeah, they're fucking assholes, but like you really want to like kind of like root for them with their like own personal journeys. And I also really liked like the side characters who just like come in and out of like the movie, like Abel Ferreira with the dog plot line, which was fucking crazy. I didn't know where it was going to go, but
None of us did. And who knew that it was all going to revolve around Penn Jillette?
yeah, right. Penn Jillette
Yeah, that's
just
the
comes out and
craziest
just like
casting.
shut the fuck up
It
and
was
just like
so
tries
good.
to like kill like Timothée Chalamet and Odessa Zion. Odessa Zion, like I haven't seen her a lot in movies or like television, but like this is like my big like moment with her, and I was like pleasantly surprised and happy to see her like on screen just like yelling like Mikey Madison last year with Honora. And just other characters who just appear like David Mamet, fucking Gwyneth Paltrow and Tyler the Creator. Just like I don't want to like spoil the rest of like the characters who just like randomly show up in
Man
this
with the
movie.
golden
but, like,
voice.
yeah, the man with the golden
Yes.
voice. Just like it's just a really fun movie. It kind of like brought me back to like the old days of like filmmaking where we used to like make movies that feel like adult and actually had to say something, but also at the same time you're having fun with like the whole overall journey. But yeah, this one was really, really great. Number 3, I have One Battle After Another, Paul Thomas Anderson's most probably mainstream and very enjoyable film to date. And yeah, sure, like there's some problems with the overall experience when you kind of like go past like Leonardo DiCaprio's character and Sean Penn's character. But even then, like it's a thrill ride. You're really like strapped to the whole entire journey. And this movie just really kind of like gave me like one of the best like IMAX experiences of the year, aside from like Sinners, especially with like the car chase at the end of the movie. And just like the whole overall weird satirical political vibes. Although I do think Eddington has like a better like take on like the whole landscape that we're living in right now. But One Battle After Another really does a lot of things with like that concept, but also makes it very absurd and very like hilarious. Number 2, I have No Other Choice by Park Chan-wook. This was another one that I caught at TIFF, and this was another like night screening where I was just like pumped and ready to like check a new like Park Chan-wook film with like Park Chan-wook in the attendance with Lee Byung-hun, and this is probably one of his most funniest, like most mainstream film that he has made. It's not like alienating like an audience. It's actually, you know, telling a story about what we're living in right now with like the corporations taking over like these like jobs and subsiding it to like AI while all these like workers are being left out in the dust. And you're following like this worker who loses his job, can't find a job in like the past like 6 months. His wife is on his ass. His kids are like struggling, and he just strikes up a plan to create like a fake job ad for all of his competitors, and then he takes like all these competitors who show up to like this fake job ad and like kills them one by one. And it's a whole like hilarious ride where you're following this guy who has never killed someone before, trying to drag out like his first kill. And eventually when he gets to like his first kill, he starts to be very emboldened by like the idea of like killing people that is trying to, you know, take his job away. And yeah, man, this was just like hilarious. There's a lot of like crazy needle drops and, you know, great transitions that you usually see from like Park Chan-wook. And yeah, man, this really kind of gave me everything that I wanted with like Park Chan-wook, but now in a sense where he's actually having fun with himself. And then finally at number 1.
Oh, hold on. We're saving one. We're saving one for the final bit. This is just 5
okay.
through 2. Yep.
Okay. All right. I'll just keep it at that. Yep. So yeah.
Yep. Like I said,
for now, I'm gonna go PP, and we'll continue on with
you
that.
do that. Yeah. Sounds good. Yes. All right, Kristen, going over to you. Your 5 through 2.
All right, 5 through 2. So it got me thinking, if I were ever to be a movie producer, what kind of stories would I enjoy telling? I want everybody to see it, have it be accessible with positive messaging. Do I love my horror movies? Yes. Would I love to produce a horror movie one day? Yes. But then it got me thinking, my family is the biggest supporter in my life. So if I were always like, I always pick a movie towards the end of the year, and I'm like, what's one movie my parents can watch? Last year, it was Thelma. This year, it was Rental Family, and one other movie that barely got any attention, and it's called Bob Trevino Likes It. It's got Barbie Ferrer in it and John Leguizamo, and their best performances ever, directed by Tracy Lehman. It was at South by Southwest. Excellent performances all around. It shook me to my core on a sense of relatability, on like finding a connection, which also goes back to Rental Family. And the way this positive messaging is, and the story that it tells, and finding out more about the film itself and how it connects back to the director is really, really great. And it had me sobbing. I just loved this, and I wish it got more attention that it deserves. But really quickly, I'll just pull out the plot really quick just in case, because I really want everybody to see this. It's about Lily Trevino unexpectedly befriends an online stranger who shares her self-centered father's name. His name is Bob. Trevino's support could transform her life. And the character, that journey that we go on for Barbie Ferrer, incredible. She learns life lessons. She learns to like what having a parental figure is. It's an amazing movie. This was the first movie I gave an A+ to in 2025. I recommend it to everybody, and stunning. And also, like I said earlier, Aiden Delbis should get some recognition this award season. John Leguizamo deserves it because it's the best performance he's ever done in years, like maybe the last 20 years. And I'm not kidding. He broke me with one line that he says. It's like this really nice scene where Barbie and John are camping. It's just one of my favorite scenes in the whole entire movie. I don't want to spoil it, but stunning movie. All right, then number 4 is No Other Choice. Like people have it on their list too. I'm not going to say anything different. It's a fantastic movie. Another movie, that sense of relatability, where we're going through this time where AI is taking over and people are losing their jobs. There's a sense of relatability to that in my case, but I just loved how it takes this insane twist. It's funny, it's comical. I love the lead performance. I can't pronounce the lead actor's name, so if anybody
Byung Hun Lee.
Thank you. He's fantastic here. I'm happy that he is nominated for a Golden Globe. I know he won't win, but he does a fantastic job in this movie, and it's probably my favorite Park Chan-wook film that he's ever done. It's a great film. Number 3. Hamnet. No other words, just Hamnet. Stunning movie. I wish I read the material that this movie was based on, but another film broke me. I wasn't expecting to cry as much in 2025 with my experience going to the cinema. And Chloe Zhao, what a way to come back after directing Eternals. We thought she was just going to disappear maybe from Hollywood and just take this long break. But what a way to come back, swinging harder than ever, directing a film that is beautiful, stunning performances, a brilliant performance from Jessie Buckley. I guarantee you she's probably going to win the Oscar for this. I know it's going to be between her and Rose for I'd Kick You. But my gosh, Jessie Buckley is just, ooh. And that final act where we see Hamnet play out on the stage with Jessie watching the performance in the audience. I love that scene. And then when Paul is like reaching his hand out into the audience and everybody's it was so stinking good. So stinking good. And then number 2 is a film I did not get to review yet, but I will eventually review at some point, I'm sure. But it's One Battle After Another. Great movie. That's all. Trying to keep it short and sweet. Paul Thomas Anderson's best film. And it's the most accessible film I think a lot of audiences did enjoy. But yeah, One Battle After Another, stunning film. I know it's going to be down to Leo and Timothy battling out for best performance at the Oscars, but great movie. Lots of political stuff going on in that movie. But I'm not saying anything different when a lot of people are talking about and praising this movie. So I'm keeping it short and sweet. So One Battle After Another is my number 2.
Yes, excellent. The only thing that I will disagree with you on is it's not going to be between Timmy and Leo. It's going to be between Timmy and Wagner Moore. That's what it's going to be between.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Luke.
I still have yet to see The Secret Agent, so I'll get there.
Yeah, me too, man.
I don't love The Secret Agent the way that everybody else does, but I understand why people are going nuts for it. And people will understand once they see it. Luke, going over to you. What is your 5 through 2?
Well, my 5 is One Battle After Another, but since Kristen just talked about that, I will throw a quick little aside that I haven't seen Hamnet, I haven't seen Sentimental Value, and I haven't seen No Other Choice. All 3 of those movies would probably be somewhere in my top 10, just based on what I know about the filmmakers and what you guys are saying about it. So I just want to make that caveat. They're not on my list because I didn't think they were good. I just haven't seen them.
Mm-hmm.
I got married this year, so that is kind of cut into a lot of my time. Thank you.
Yay!
Yes.
I'm clapping. You can't see it, but
So it's been an interesting reinvention of myself as a movie fan now, watching with a significant other all the time.
I can agree to that. Dragging your spouse to certain movies, it's a lot.
And she does not like horror, so One Battle After Another is in my top 5. I just wanted to make a joke about it that it kind of seems like with a lot of us on our list, this is like LeBron in the 2010s in the MVP, where every single year you could be like, LeBron can win MVP, but I don't want to vote for him again. Like, that seems silly. Like, let's give it to somebody else. So I think a lot of us are kind of juggling that idea in our head with One Battle After Another. It's a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. It's not his best movie because he's like a master of the last 25 years.
One could say the master.
Yeah, one could. Even though that's not his best film.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
No.
He has made the best film of the last 25 years. So I think we all know what that one is.
Well, I hope it's not Licorice Pizza.
It's not Licorice.
Thank you.
Definitely not licorice. It's definitely not Licorice Pizza.
There Will Be Blood.
Yeah.
Okay.
I prefer Phantom Thread, but okay.
Whoa. Yeah. Phantom Thread is incredible. And that one is one that with multiple viewings gets better and better and better, much like The Master. So yeah, that's all I got to really say about One Battle After Another. I'll throw a quick shade. I really, really appreciate Sean Penn's performance. I think he's great.
Yeah.
It got a little too much for me.
Okay.
By the end of the 2.5 hours of watching, I was just like, somebody kill this guy.
And they do it twice.
So they do it. It resolves. It's great. But I was so fed up with his shit by the end of it. I was just like, all right.
So wait, she stole your semen? Yes, I believe she was a semen demon. A
Semen
semen
demon.
demon. Yes, exactly.
Wild shit.
Incredible stuff.
I mean, his
Vince
opening,
McMahon walk is
his
just-
first appearance in the film. I won't get into the explicit details.
Oh,
It's
man.
just I've never seen anything like it before. The movie blows me away so many times that like I'm just like I don't know what to do. This is probably the best movie of 2025, but it's not my favorite, I guess.
Your mind wasn't the only thing getting blown in that sense.
There you go.
Oh shit!
I think
Go for two.
I think I might be for my number 4. I think I might be the only film reviewer that will have this in their top 5. But this has a special place in my heart. I knew going into this I was going to love it. It's Ballad of a Small Player.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh.
Something
this
I have not heard anything since this movie
No.
implied it. Tiff.
So this is Edward
I haven't heard
Berger's.
anything since I saw it on Netflix, and I chose not to watch it.
All right. Let me make the case. Let me make my case. This is a personal taste. So Edward Berger coming off of the Conclave and All Quiet on the Western Front. 2 very different movies, both done fantastically, in my opinion. I think the end of Conclave kind of sucks, but I think everything up to there is great. Ballad of a Small Player is a movie that stars Colin Farrell and who is the other one?
It's Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton. That's who I was trying to think of. So it is written by Rowan Joffe and is based on a novel by Lawrence Osborne. It is about a gambling and alcoholic who has stolen the identity of a lord and taken money from. He used to be like investment basically, and he steals a bunch of money from an old lady, goes to Taipei, and basically acts like he's a high roller. And it just goes through his descent into madness, basically. And it's such an incredible performance for what addiction is like, the deep, deep spiral that you go in. And it makes the city, Curacao, one of the gambling capitals of the world, its own character within the movie. And Colin Farrell's performance is just out of this world. He is a recovering addict. So he can really embody this performance. And I think the levels that he goes to are incredible. This movie won't be for everyone. It is about gambling. The gambling scenes aren't the greatest or the most intense things in the world, and they're playing a pretty simple game. So it's not like watching a poker movie where you're like, oh, this is fun. It's not like Rounders or anything like that. But this is a personal one for me. I think I'll be the only one with it in my top 5, but I absolutely love that film. Number 3 is I asked Dom about this before we started. It is a documentary, so I apologize, but I think it is one of the most important documentaries made in a couple of years. It is 2,000 Meters to Andriivka. It is a documentary about the war that is currently going on in Ukraine. And it follows Ukrainian soldiers as they are trying to capture a city that the Russians have taken over. That's an important kind of maneuvering spot. And there's a 2,000 meters stretch of land that they are inch by inch trying to take over to then get to the town. The craziest thing about this is that all of the footage in the movie is from body cams that the soldiers are wearing. So you see everything, and it is heartbreaking. And what this movie does super well is, like a lot of other war movies, it asks the question why over and over again. Humanity, people, we all ask that same question. Why does war have to happen? What is going on? Why is the senseless killing occurring? And this movie answers that question like a journalist over and over and over again. And the answer is always military procedure. We just do this thing because we're told to do it, because it is the next thing to do. Ukraine's finally going on an offensive. Let's make a move. Let's capture these 2,000 meters. And it's just the day after day. And you're hearing the soldiers and stuff go like, we just got to get to the next step. But nobody really pauses and goes like, why are you here in the first place? Right. Except for the documentarian, who the entire time is using his narration over the top to ask that question over and over and over again. And it's the way the movie ends too, with just this hollow. So they got it. Why? Like there's nothing there. And you've watched all of these people die senselessly, and it's just incredible. I would recommend it to anybody. It's not only is it a great documentary, it's one of the best war films, period.
Wow.
The action that you're getting from the live camera, unbelievable.
I'm amazed I haven't heard of this. Sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
where can you watch this? I never heard of this one.
You can rent it on Amazon. I
Amazon?
think
Okay.
it's I think it's like $5 or whatever.
Is this going to be on like the short list for like the Oscars and stuff?
I think it'll
Yeah, it is
definitely
now.
win Best Documentary of the Year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I've been
Um,
seeing that one being talked about, and The Perfect Neighbor, because that was also a movie with a lot of body
Yeah, this
full
is
body cam footage. So I'm interested to see.
Mislav Chernov is the director, the documentarian. He works, I forget which company he works for. I think it's AP.
Okay.
Basically, the Associated Press basically funded this operation. It's incredible. I can't recommend this highly enough. But with the trigger warning of like there are a lot of triggers and bullets and
Fair.
live deaths that
Yeah.
are very hard to watch.
I'm not surprised that would be in something like this. That sounds really fascinating. Sorry, I wanted to
No.
more.
After I watched this movie, all I wanted to do was talk about it forever, but I really didn't have anyone to talk to it.
Okay.
Well, now you do.
No, you do.
My number 2, Train Dreams.
All right.
Oh.
This is Clint Bentley. He was in my 2 spot last year with Sing Sing. I absolutely
Yeah.
adored
Oh, yeah.
Sing Sing. Train Dreams, very different, but different in an incredible way. Joel Edgerton puts on one of the performances of the year. It is so harrowing, but there is so much life and honesty in this movie. The Pacific Northwest in the 1900s, the lumber yard, just the interactions between the guys there, the love story, the building of the cabin together, the starting the family, everything. And it just is in the most beautiful spot in the world. And this movie does an incredible thing that I've just never considered it before or never watched enough movies that are doing this. But it follows the transition of somebody born in 1990 and the incredible modernity that he runs into as he ages. Think of it, 1900. He's essentially like, I don't know, like in the Civil War, basically.
Mhm.
Like that era, like that type of living. By the end of the movie, he's in a bus watching, the 64 Mustang drive by. Like that is an incredible span of time that people don't realize, that people that lived during that, everything that they saw, 2 world wars, the rise of the automobile, planes, like incredible stuff. Train Dreams is just fantastic. And if you want to talk about movies to recommend your parents to watch, this is one of them. I think this is a great family type movie. It's rated PG-13. There's not really that much crazy stuff in it. It is tragic. It's heartbreaking. It's heartwarming. It's got everything. Train Dreams, number 2.
All right. Awesome. All right, Pat, over to you. What is your 5 through 2?
Okay, my number 5 was my best theater experience of the year, which was Weapons. This movie, in unison, people were gasping, laughing, and when that Alex title card comes on the screen, it was basically that meme of the guy with the controller leaning forward, where everyone completely just locked in. Which it was just the best. It was just the best theater experience I had all year, especially the ending. And the theater experience, is dying a bit, and that just this was my number 1 because of these the 4 that went in front came out after for a while, just because of the theater experience. And I know there's some criticism with this, where if it wasn't structured the way it was, it wouldn't be as good. I hate that criticism because it is structured this way, so that doesn't work. So it's like, yeah, and Zach Kreger, the ability to balance the horror and the humor, and it's so much better than Barbarian for me.
Yes, I agree.
I thought it fine-tuned the jarring aspect of Barbarian a bit, and somehow he's got Resident Evil in my top 10 most anticipated for 2026 just based on him. So that's impressive on it is. So yeah, I won't say much more about it. Everyone, Amy Madigan rightfully is sweeping everything, and I think she's got it. And I think that's awesome. People want horror movies to, be this elevated thing, and it's happening. and I think I think that's great with Sinners as well. It's great. It's a great thing for movies. So that's my number 5. Number 4 was It Was Just an Accident. This movie, the opening 40 and closing 40 minutes kind of bookend the middle. The middle kind of takes a more humorous look at the absurdity of the situation while being this moral dilemma of revenge as well. But man, those opening 40 minutes just makes you think, okay, wait a minute, this might be great here. Hang on. It's an instant shift of like perspective in the opening. And the last 40 minutes, there's a long take that lasts about 20 minutes. That's maybe the best shot of the year, I would probably say, even though not technically, but because the camera, I don't think it even moves, but definitely the most intense. And the ending is just remarkable. And I don't know. I don't want to go into more about it, but I would. It was just the most intense thing the whole way through, and I love that. I will jump to number 3, which is Train Dreams. On streaming, I think all of us probably can admit that you watch something on streaming, you still have maybe your phone next to you and out. This is a film that about a few minutes in, I took my phone and I just like flung it away, and I was like, okay, this is going to be something special. And I think I had tears in my eyes through the entire thing. I don't think I cried, but I had tears in my eyes through the whole thing. And it just, in a world with like social media today where we compare ourselves to everybody, where if your life isn't as good as someone else's, this is a movie that takes like the mundane and makes it just not just okay, but just almost perfect and comforting. And it makes living life comforting, or it just makes you feel that way. Even can make death comforting for some people, because the understanding that you're a part of something bigger. Those are incredibly profound things, and that's stuff that when a movie can do that, it gets to my number 3. So again, Joel, it looks gorgeous. I think it kind of deserves the cinematography award over everything else this year. I don't think it's getting it. I think One Battle After Another with Sinners is probably taking that, but we'll see.
28 years later.
Yep.
That was great too. The bridge scene in that alone is probably most gorgeous scene of the year. Wild movie. Can't wait for the Bone Temple next week.
Next week.
And please make money. Please make money. So
Jack O'Connell, guys.
Yeah.
Just you wait for the Jack O'Connell taking over the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
hope it makes money.
Rocket ship.
It needs to make money so we get the Cillian Murphy led 3rd film supposedly.
Yeah.
So
all right.
Please. My number 2 is Marty Supreme. Of the 3 safety movie, I'm gonna throw out. I didn't like Smashing Machines, but of the 3, following a guy that's not really a good person, I thought this one had more. I guess his supporting people around him, his sort of girlfriend or his pregnant girlfriend that's married, his uncle, and his best friend, Tyler the Creator. There is some genuine like care for him from these people, and he has care for them back, even though he cares more about what he calls his destiny. And I think because of that, I preferred the movie to Uncut Gems and Good Time. Good Time, he's a pedophile, so he's really not good.
Not good.
So definitely, so the ending of this movie didn't initially. I wasn't sure if it worked for me. I was like, is it too jarring of what goes on? But I think after thinking about it, because of like the heart that is genuinely there in the rest of the movie, just hidden a little bit, the movie does work for me way more. And I think Timothée Chalamet, I don't think it's a race. I think he's got it, and I think he deserves it too. And he's just gonna end up following that up with Dune next year. So he's on a roll, man. He is I think our new Leo, pretty much. So so that was that's my number 2.
5 through 2. All right, now over to me. All right, so now this is where I get to cook. My top 5 is always where I get to have a lot of fun. And I notice how none of you had what could be argued to be the movie event of the year on there. Was it Sinners? Was it One Battle After Another? Was it No Other Choice? Was it Train Dreams, which seemed to get a lot of praise and hype? No, the movie event of the summer and possibly of the year was not a theatrical movie. It was a Netflix movie. It is K-pop Demon Hunter.
Yes.
Which again, I gotta give the shout out here because I gotta I gotta be honest, I saw this movie before it blew up. This movie did not blow up until late July, early August, and that's when it like became the event of the year. And I saw this in June when it first dropped. This was part of like that package deal that Sony made during the pandemic. Sony is the only studio that did not have its own streaming service. They decided to just license all of their animated movies and send them directly to Netflix. You saw this with efforts like Mitchell's versus the Machines and Adam Sandler's Leo, and a couple of others that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. But this was, I think, the ultimate culmination of that deal because, good God, you couldn't turn anywhere without hearing this soundtrack. This soundtrack was like top, like the platinum, got platinum and topped the Spotify and every music streaming chart of the year, and also helped that the movie was pretty damn good to begin with as well. Like I was going in being like, okay, the animation looks cool, this could be like kind of fun, and then I ended up like really digging it, like really enjoying it. Like the songs are really, really good. What's it called? To me, the reason why this movie worked is it's a couple of things. One, the influence obviously of K-pop into the culture, as well as just Netflix's easy dissemination amongst the youth specifically. It's why Stranger Things is as big as it is. It also feels very, very reminiscent of Disney musicals, you know, coming of age girl group stories like, you know, Powerpuff Girls comes to mind. Also, obviously very heavily influenced by anime and manga. Follows a K-pop group that also secretly fights demons as they attempt to maintain the Han Moon barrier between the human and demon worlds. Also, speaking of Bang Hung Lee, the star of No Other Choice, he voices the villain, the evil demon Guima, who they have to they ultimately can never defeat, but they have to. I sound like a 10-year-old saying this. I can't believe that these words are actually coming out of my mouth right now, but bear with me. So basically, he realized the Guima, the evil demon, discovers that the only way to defeat the K-pop group is by recruiting musician demon Genu in order to form a rival boy band called the Saja Boys, who attack Huntress in the one area where they're vulnerable, their fans. You also have the plot twist that the lead singer of Huntress, Rumi, is hiding the secret that she is half demon. This movie checks off all the boxes. It's perfect for young kids and millennials. It's a kick-ass soundtrack, stellar animation, and it also introduces mythology, which I feel like is ultimately what's missing. Whenever people ask, oh, what is missing from original movies? It is this. This movie has so much mythology, so much backstory that goes into it. It's already setting up for multiple sequels. It still has a bunch of open-ended questions. And yeah, it was ultimately just an absolute blast. And again, every time that I get a chance to throw on an animated movie that really just hits all quadrants, I'm going to. And yeah, K-pop Demon Hunters was absolutely awesome and actually worthy of the hype. One of the few that I have seen that actually is. My number 4. Ultimately the horror movie event of the year, the movie that was the script that was so heavily bid after that when Jordan Peele failed to secure it, he fired his management team, and it basically kind of screwed the rest of his year and the rest of his career. And that's Weapons. Zach Kreger, who again got his start in the sketch comedy group The Whitest Kids You Know. The Great Me sketch is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Yeah, this was a movie that literally, it's funny kind of how much in common this kind of had with Pluribus, which is Vince Gilligan's new show that premiered on Apple TV this year, his follow-up to Better Call Saul, where in the sense of where outside of the title, we had no clue what this movie was going to be. They're like, Weapons. They're like, what does that mean? Like, we only knew that the movie was called Weapons and that it was a horror movie and that it involved kids. That's the only thing that we knew going into this movie. And it's one of those instances where the mystery and the structure ultimately are befitting of this movie, because throughout the first half of this movie, you are like actively, like the audience as a whole is actively trying to figure out what the hell is going on here. The only thing that we know going in is that one night randomly, all of the kids in this one teacher's room disappeared one night. And naturally, everybody kind of goes into this witch hunt mode, pun intended. Everybody goes after the Julia Garner character. And then obviously revelations are made throughout. Obviously, when it comes to reveal that the actual perpetrator of all these events is the witch portrayed by Amy Madigan. This movie has plenty of homages to other horror movies, specifically that of, the role of Pennywise and It, with some of the dream sequences involving her. They had a lot of fun with that one. And also as well, I got to give a shout out to Warner Brothers as well. Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi, who basically got a thankless job coming in with Warner Brothers, trying to manage a studio in which they were basically kind of set up to fail with, and then ended up arguably having one of the best years ever with their slate, also including Sinners, Minecraft, Superman, One Battle After Another. What's it called? It's a commentary on suburban isolation and paranoia, and other movie about sinister things happening in a small town. Also, the fact that this is a movie that was kind of in a way saved by the writers and actors strike, because the original cast of this movie, you had Renata Rensby, ironically enough, in the Julia Garner part, Pedro Pascal in the Josh Brolin part, Tom Burke in the Benedict Wong part, and the Alden Ehrenreich part, and Brian Tyree Henry in the Benedict Wong part. The only original cast member, from the inception was Austin Abrams, who also is going to be starring in Resident Evil. some awesome creepy choreography, great physical demonstration just of like how the magic is demonstrated. I really, really dug that, how that was part of the visual storytelling as well, not just like, oh, I'm just going to dump a bunch of exposition on you about how I'm a witch and how this is how all of my magic is going to work. I thought that was really, really cool. Some really great visual imagery as well. Also, again, mixing in some really great comedic tactics, specifically when Josh Brolin and Julia Garner infiltrate the house at the end and have to deal with all the possessed individuals. I thought that was a lot of fun. Also, absolutely killer ending, one of the best of the year, if not of all time. Basically, in which the lead child, the Carrie Christopher character, ends up using the witch's spell against her by basically causing all the kids to chase after her and rip her apart. It's absolutely metal, in order to quote Luke Reviews. It's one of the best endings of the year. The other thing also, as far as why the witch character in and of itself works, the Aunt Gladys character is terrifying, is because it relies on the age-old tactic of the old feeding off the youth to maintain their immortality. I feel like itself a commentary on vanity and ageism, and also kind of how, the baby boomer generation are just consistently trying to suck the life out of us with every single one of their feeble breaths, but less said there, the better. My number 3 is one that a lot of people have already talked about, so I'm not going to add too much else, and that is No Other Choice, my first Park Chan-wook movie that I saw at a film festival. I was lucky enough to be able to see the 4K restoration that Neon did for Old Boy that they did 2 years ago. So seeing this at TIFF, this was my most anticipated movie going into TIFF. Jack, I'm so mad at you for stealing this from me for the movie draft that we did going into the fall. I'm going to bring that up every chance that I get. So I have heard from certain other people that this came off as tame in comparison to his previous other work, mostly because this was, like I said, a movie, not a social experiment to determine just how much fucked up shit people could witness on screen, like something like, say, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, a biting satire about the crushing effects of how capitalist structures on the, specifically on the modern male, have, but and all but erasing the traditional middle-class existence, that idea of pulling yourself up from your bootstraps and how, corporations doing what they do are basically eradicating that step by step. You all basically know the plot of this movie. So what I quite enjoyed is how this movie starts as a slapstick comedy and by the end becomes Dexter. And the fact that it is able to kind of have that seamless transition between those two vastly different tones, I think is pretty ingenious. And what I also wanted to talk about as well with this is how the Darwinian nature of it, if you will, this idea of how kind of Darwinism, especially now in the modern day, is constantly at war with, the idea of being a moral, good individual. Because the problem is that society has shown time and time again that it rewards the person who is willing to do whatever it takes in order to make it to the top, just look at previous efforts like Wolf of Wall Street, Nightcrawler, in order to, further my point. In terms of how the main character, Yu Man-su's first murder attempt, he's horrifically incompetent and waylaid by unexpected occurrences. But as the film goes on, he becomes better at killing as he gains more experience, causing him to become more cold and calculating, and therefore, in the eyes of society, more of a masculine presence to his wife, family, and fellow co-workers, and just as well becomes more valuable as a member of society itself, in the sense of where you take that first attempt where he's first trying to interview with the company, he's nervous, he's shaking, he's anxious because he's so desperate, he needs that job. And so as a result, he doesn't end up getting it. But by the end, he's a lot more confident. He's a lot more calm, cool, collected because as a result of all these people that he's murdered, and he gets the job almost no problem. And you see him at the end. He's the only human figure in a factory surrounded by machines, him having become more machine than man, if you will, to quote Star Wars, ultimately showing how the Darwinian nature of survival of the fittest and how cold and harsh it truly is. The cinematography as well is very flowing and dreamlike. It blends surrealism with realism. It's one of the first instances where I've seen that, where so much of the time you have filmmakers who are trying to make dreams feel like reality and vice versa. But with what Park Chan-wook does with this movie is he's able to so seamlessly blend the two in a way of where you feel like he's living in a dream, because that literally is everything that he's tried to achieve at the beginning before that dream ultimately becomes a nightmare when it kind of all gets taken away when he loses his job. So that's my number 3. And then my number 2, it was my number 1 for the longest time. I mean, Ryan Coogler, look, it's kind of insane when you consider the fact that this is his first wholly original movie, because even his directorial debut, Fruitvale Station, was based off of real events. Then obviously, he steeped an IP role with Creed and the 2 Black Panther movies that he directs. But Sinners, man, this was a special movie. Yeah, okay, the obvious criticism that people came at, yes, structurally it is very, very, very similar to From Dusk Till Dawn. In fact, that was even a criticism that I held against it when I first saw it. But that being said, I mean, forget the movie itself. The fact that the deal that Coogler struck with this movie, in order to get this film made, regaining the rights to this after 25 years is practically unheard of. So much so that Warner Brothers was even attempting to get ahead of it by leaking to the film tabloids of how the movie was set to be a financial failure, and then it ends up being one of the financial successes of the year. And despite the structural similarities to From Dusk Till Dawn, it really does create its own mythology and identity, specifically by diving heavily into the influence and origin of the blues music, specifically in the Mississippi Delta area during the Jim Crow era. What I like as well is how the how the vampires do not do the traditionalist kind of racist approach where they're not targeting them because they're black. In fact, they make several jokes about that as well in the middle. What I appreciate also is how it really ties together how, the respective lineage of all of these figures, all of these characters in the movie are so heavily tied to the blues music ultimately. And Ryan Coogler even talked about this in the behind the scenes of the film where, the idea of the banjo, people mistake obviously the lineage and they obviously associate it with, that Appalachia area, but it actually has its origins in Africa ultimately. So I thought that was a really kind of interesting and different take as well. Also the idea of how the traditional idea of vampirism that we are so used to in movies is now grown and expanded on so much so that it is that when the vampire is, when you become one of them, ultimately, when they bite you and you become a vampire, it essentially erases your entire identity. You're still there, but you are ultimately now part of this hive mind under the control of Remick, ultimately. And so that's what makes the transformations in here so that much more tragic, ultimately. It's the fact that every person who becomes a vampire is ultimately connected to and a loved one of all of our main characters. Smoke loses his twin brother Stack, who he even said is a part of him. Grace loses her husband Bo. Cornbread. All of these figures who end up becoming. You really feel that loss, even though they're not technically dead. It adds a new terminology to the idea of the living dead, and so. That's why I feel like this kind of, goes above and beyond the idea of, just another vampire movie as well. It really is working with a lot of different things, and really props to Ryan Coogler for being able to make this movie on the biggest scale and level possible, as well as the fact that one of those brilliant marketing tactics too that I've seen for a movie in a long time, where he literally just goes into the different types of film that they use to make the movie, and that ends up being a selling point and a reason as to why people want to watch this in the biggest form possible on 70mm IMAX. So like I said, if not for my number one, this was my number one for the longest time, but except for then I saw my number one, and Jack, what it is, because everybody else I think can figure out what my number one is going to be. But so quickly, just to run through everybody else's 5 through 2 before we get to our number one. So Jack, you had It Was Just an Accident at 5, Marty Supreme at 4, One Battle After Another at 3, and No Other Choice at 2. Kristen, you had Bob Trevino Likes It at 5, No Other Choice at 4, Hamnet at 3, and One Battle After Another at 2. Luke, you had One Battle After Another at 5, Ballad of a Small Player at 4, 2,000 Meters to Andrivka at 3, and Train Dreams at 2. And Pat, you had Weapons at 5, It Was Just an Accident at 4, Train Dreams at 3, Marty Supreme at 2. And then I had K-Pop Demon Hunters at 5, Weapons at 4, No Other Choice at 3, and Sinners at 2. All right, Jack. Here we are. Let's break it down. What is your number one of the year?
All right. So my number one is, I don't know, it's not really a surprise to Dom, but for the rest of the folks here, this one kind of snuck up on me, but also at the same time, it was one of those films that I really thought about after watching it for the first time and then seeing it again just a few weeks ago. That kind of solidified my points made with this film. But yeah, The Secret Agent is my number one film of last year, 2025. And I think the reason being is because I take cinema as more of a literary experience. I'm trying to see movies that have kind of a thought process with the overall experience of filmmaking, how to structure a story that you've seen before but kind of want to mix it up a little bit. And The Secret Agent, on kind of its basic levels, is about a guy who comes home to his family, and even before you kind of follow this main character, you're kind of taken aback by the history behind the kind of the feeling of Brazil at this time in 1977, where Brazil was at a point where it was in the middle of the dictatorship. You had people who were kind of hiding from the government, and this father who comes home to his son, he's being chased by like these two hitmen who have like a troubled past with like this main character. And the main character used to work at like this university as like a technological professor, and his projects are like curbed by like this main guy who comes into like the department and tries to destroy all of his projects. And from there, this guy hatches a plan to kill our main character. And then in the beginning of the film, we're taken aback by like the first scene where he's at a gas station filling up his car, and policemen just show up to like this gas station trying to take out the main character while also mitigating the situation with the dead body out front of the gas station. And it's a whole situation where it's very intense, and you're trying to figure out whether or not like this guy is going to escape the situation. He does by bribing the cop with like a pack of cigarettes. And the movie starts where you're following the main character. It's like a hangout film. He's talking to like all of his friends and family members. He's kind of like going back to like his old ways, and also at the same time he's trying to collect all the documents from his family so he can kind of move away from this area that he's living in with his son. And then eventually in the second chapter, it basically turns into a really surreal political thriller where you're following this main character as he's trying to hide from like these two hitmen that are trying to kill him, while also in the background you're learning a lot about like how these people are kind of like living through like this dictatorship, especially with the whole surrealist kind of backstory of like this shark attack that happened on the beach and is causing like chaos around Brazil. And eventually the third act of the film turns into like this very thrilling foot chase inside of the town of Brazil. And one of the main characters is trying to hide away from like these two hitmen that are trying to kill him. And one of the most striking like moments of the film for me is the middle section where you're following Wagner Moore's character, Armando Marcelo, who is trying to hide from like these hitmen, and he tells basically his whole entire life story of how he got into like the situation while also being recorded on tape. And also the tape eventually follows us to the future or the present day where these two girls are listening to the tape that is being recorded. And in the middle of like the tape being recorded, you're hearing screams of an audience watching The Omen downstairs in the auditorium of the theater. And it's a whole kind of situation where you're seeing and like hearing like the screams of like all of these like people who have lived through this dictatorship. And it gets really intense well after that. But yeah, man, like this really broke my brain, but also kind of like helped more with my understanding of like this time in Brazil, while also kind of like relating it to now where we're living in a time where speaking out against the government is chastised and is at a point where we're kind of like in a kind of violent situation. But yeah, this really kind of broke my brain. It really kind of like put me into perspective of like how we make films like this. And it also gave me one of the best performances of the year by Wagner Moura, in my personal opinion. And it also gave me like one of the best directed films of the year, in my opinion. So yeah, I think that's the reason why I have A Secret Agent at number one for me personally.
Yes, well said, Jack. All right, Kristen, going over to you. What is your number one movie of 2025?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Jack. I learned more about this film just from learning about that now, because I only knew just of Wagner Moura. I can't wait to watch this now because I didn't know too much about it, just other than cans and just people praising it. But now I can't wait to watch it. And I want to say I saw 183 movies that were released in 2025.
Good shit.
That's a good
Let's
number.
go.
That was more than I saw in 2024. So I feel pretty lucky going into movies a lot and getting sent stuff to me. It was a really great year. So to anybody who follows me or sends me content to view, thank you. But closing out the year for 2025, it was Sinners. This movie took me by a huge surprise, and it has everything. Got horror, a little bit of comedy. It's a musical. There's action. It had everything that I was looking for, and I was just like, where the hell did this movie come from? I love this whole vampire aspect. The music sounds good. The cinematography looks stunning. I loved seeing this in IMAX. My favorite IMAX experience probably for 2025. I didn't get to see one battle after another in IMAX, so I was pretty let down. I did enjoy F1 in IMAX, but seeing Sinners in IMAX was just like a whole different cinema experience. I loved it. Everyone has been saying nothing but great things. I hope it wins a lot of awards as we get into the award season and we're all cheering on our movies that we love. I hope this gets all the recognition it deserves. I'm happy to see Michael B. Jordan earn his flowers, especially for his performance, because I love seeing him play twins. I didn't know he was playing twins until I walked into the theater with my husband. We both looked at each other like, that's Michael B. Jordan playing twins. Like, we didn't, like, I barely watched the trailer. I barely knew anything because I wanted to go into that movie surprised. And it took me like a whole different level. It's another level experience. I loved it. And Sinners is my number one. I can't complain anything about it because it's just so fun. And this is why I go to the movies, for fun and unique experiences. And Sinners was a unique experience. So, yeah. Simple as that.
Just some of the absolute craziest one-liners.
Like, oh my God, yeah.
I was like, oh, I was literally like, oh man. It's so funny because I was like, man, I hope Josh Allen has a ring on that finger because, man, that's some crazy shit that she's saying right there. that was really funny. All right, Luke, you're number one of 2025.
Oh boy. All right, so my theme for my kind of top two here, with Train Dreams being at 2 and now with my number one. Simple stories told extremely well. And I don't know if this is going to land at 1 for a lot of people, but this movie meant a lot to me. And I think it really said a lot about 2025, in my opinion, and everything going on. And that is The History of Sound.
Oh, I didn't see that yet.
This is director Oliver Hermanus, writer Ben Shattuck. It stars Paul Mescal and Josh O'Connor. Josh O'Connor, who is also having a Timothée Chalamet type year where he is getting really big, really fast. This is a guy that in his first couple movies has kind of been a bright spot. And what was the tennis movie from last year? Yeah, that was kind of his breakout. And this is it's a small movie, but he is so fantastic. And it also shout out to the mastermind, kind of
that shit was gas, man.
Soderbergh-esque type film. He's fantastic in this. But The History of Sound. So this is a movie about two guys who, like Train Dreams, around the 1900s. And they meet in college because they're both musicians. Paul Mescal's character has like basically perfect pitch, very good singer. And then Josh O'Connor's character is a composer. So he can play any instrument, pick up any tune, that type of. So they work really well in tandem. And it's a love story between the two, but it's an unrequited love because of the era that they live in. Like, they are not able to be open and be together. And the way that emotion is played through is through a song. And it's the first song that when they meet in a bar together that Paul Mescal sings for Josh O'Connor's character. And it's called Silver Dagger. And I just wanted to read the chorus that kind of is the thesis for this movie. And it goes, "Don't sing love songs, you'll wake my mother. She's sleeping here right by my side. And in her hand, a silver dagger. She says that I can't be your bride." The entire song is about a mom basically warning her daughter about bad men. And through my experience with bad men, I want to keep that from you. This guy is a bad guy. Like, so that's why the dagger's there. But when it's then twisted for queer individuals, it's really that idea of like, it's not the wrong guy, but it's the wrong guy to society. Like, society is telling you, like, get that silver dagger, like, get rid of this guy. Like, it's not good news. And it's just so beautiful. So basically the entire story is their life together while they're young men. And they are collecting songs. So they go around to these different small little villages and stuff and collect folk songs. Because what's beautiful about America, and especially American folk music, is the diversity from it. Diversity in America has always and will always be our greatest strength. So don't stop it. You love music. The reason why American folk music is so great is because it comes from everywhere. And it is Josh O'Connor and Paul Mescal's character's job. They go around, they record these on these wax little cylinders. That's just what they were able to record on, so that these folk songs that could get lost to history potentially will always have a spot. And they can be heard in the voices of the people that originally were singing them. This all culminates. There's tragedy. There's World War I, a little bit of that stuff. This movie will make you weep. It'll make you feel the greatest love that you can possibly feel. I think it's so cool that, like, while we've heard the stories of all, straight couples basically over and over again, love stories and stuff like that, that queer cinema has really taken the reins on those types of movies and those types of stories. And they're told through this fantastic lens that makes everything just seem a little bit newer, a little bit more special. And it just works fantastically all the way through. I can't tell you how great this is. It is a fantastic double feature with Train Dreams. So yeah, my number one, The History of Sound. Also shout out Chris Cooper, who shows up as the narrator. And in the end of this movie, he's one of my favorite kind of shows up in every movie type guy. That guy from, if you're a Rewatchables fan, Chris Cooper, History of Sound. Oliver Hermanus, a director that I will be definitely checking out his past couple movies and looking forward to his next one.
Wow, this is so far the most ringing endorsement of this movie that I've heard yet. Because not a lot of people watch this movie and even like.
Yeah.
So
I haven't heard much discussion about it, and it felt like under the radar. I saw the promotion that they did like on Jimmy Fallon, but then came and went. I probably know one other person besides you, Luke, who saw it and really praised it. So I have to check that one out now too.
Again, much like Ballad of a Small Player, it might just be me, but I can't speak any higher about the movie.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Pat, what's your number one?
Number one is Mel Gibson's Flight Risks. No, I'm kidding. It's,
dang.
That was second to last, actually.
That was good. That was good.
Number one is Sentimental Value for me.
All right.
Unlike Marty Supreme, which I had at 2, this one does everything quietly. It's actually gorgeous looking, which you don't really think about like watching it, but it's a great looking movie. It hit hard for me with the family aspect. Won't go into that, but it this film, the idea of not just forgiveness or forgetting about bad memories. Sometimes you can't move past something with family. It's about making the choice of adding good memories to all that, and finding a way to live your life by adding all these good memories to the bad and moving forward. I just thought it was quietly just devastating, and it pretty much the scene between the two sisters that's late in the movie pretty much crushed me. And I thought it was better than the Worst Person in the World. It was one of those, I saw the trailer for this, and I just the song use in the trailer just didn't work, and I was like, all right, this looks like whatever, it's fine, I'll check it out. I don't know, it moved me more than anything else this year. This is kind of like, for me, I think back in, I don't know if it was the year, I think I put The Holdovers ahead of Oppenheimer because it got me in the heart a little more. And so similar to that, this was just my favorite of the year.
All right, awesome. I love that you put that at number one. It really shows the power of this. But all right, let's bring it back to it. And I hope that Japan's ready, because I'm about to drop a third bomb on them when I get there. Number one, Marty Supreme of the year, easily. I mean, okay, look, so it was tough just for me personally, knowing that, like, okay, this is the Safdie movie that is now going to have all the hype around it. This is the one that it's like, okay, like after Uncut Gems was so horrifically and unbelievably snubbed back in 2019 to such an egregious degree that there were even news articles written about it. the fact that, you know, you had the what felt like a not public but also kind of public Safdie split up, you know, them going their own way, them both releasing movies this year, and then kind of one unintentionally so but kind of clowning the other by showing we all know who was clearly the more talented of the bunch as well.
Well,
What
one
I
went
like-
to Troy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And what I appreciate about this is the fact that with both Josh and with Timothy, with his performance in this movie, you could really feel like a culmination. And I know it's kind of ironic given the fact that Timothy is once again playing an unlikable character who is like hell bent on this destiny to become like the greatest table tennis player in the world and doesn't care who he has to get through in order to achieve that dream. There feels like there's a maturity that's being achieved here with both filmmaker and actor that I feel like obviously not only just was not there with their previous efforts, but also how this film feels like a culmination. You know, the fact that Timothy has been saying for a couple of years now that he wants to be the best, that he, you know, that he owes everything to the people who came before him, but the fact that he feels that he is now like the signature star of his generation, and it's reflected in the performance as well. The fact that he's never been more confident, the fact that he's never been more determined, the fact that he's never been more, I guess you could say, you know, fast paced, if you will. Like this movie has such a frenetic energy that is so common to all of the Safdie brothers' efforts beforehand. And what I appreciated too is how you're expecting the typical, you know, like for lack of a better word, nasty Safdie brothers ending that you saw happen with Good Time and with Uncut Gems, but they don't do that this time around. Instead, what's so interesting, and Josh Safdie talked about this a lot in kind of the press tour for Marty, is that part of Marty's whole thing, the character, is that he is constantly trying to escape kind of the what's it called, the trap, the section of society, if you will, that it feels like everybody in his life has, you know, his mother, his uncle who he works for, you know, the Odessa Azion character is trying to trap him in. Feels like he's constantly, part of the reason why he is moving so fast is because he's constantly trying to outrun and escape. He doesn't want to feel trapped. He doesn't want to feel contained. But then by the end, after he has ultimately fulfilled his goal that he's been trying to, and he comes back, he ultimately kind of finds himself encased in that, but in a way that it feels like he has determined for himself, not that has been determined for him. And I think that's kind of what I feel like everybody who is all the naysayers of this movie have been missing ultimately, and in people's kind of quick rush to judgment in terms of comparing this to Good Time and Uncut Gems. Stylistically, the three films obviously are very similar, but I feel like this movie is achieving something that both of those movies were kind of only scraping at. Obviously, all the typical signature Safdie technicals, the Daniel Lopata score, the Darius Kanji cinematography, Ronald Bronstein, his co-writer and co-creator. I love, too, how Josh Safdie talks about the origin of how this movie came to be, about how after Uncut Gems, his then girlfriend, now wife, gave him this book on, like, you know, table tennis and all these crazy table tennis players. And then in combination of the fact of, you know, his great uncle, you know, coming back from World War II and frequenting, you know, the first Black-owned, basically social club in Times Square, and how all the people who were in there would simultaneously rip you off, but then be like some of the smartest people that you would ever meet. So the movie does kind of have this like underlying thread of like chasing a dream and like what that means, like visually, like how that is visually represented in a way that I have not seen really in any other movie. So basically got that. How everyone in Marty's life is trying to pigeonhole him. Got that. Also, this is the other thing that I wanted to say. The movie's combination of a 50s setting, but with an 80s soundtrack. It makes for a strangely cohesive tone due to kind of the similar feelings of the American dream in both those settings. Because you've got the 50s, which is like kind of the hoorah America post World War II, like we just beat Germany, like everyone's kind of on a high. And then the 80s, where America's kind of coming back from like kind of the dour, depressing nature of the 70s. You know, we're in Reagan's America. We've kind of got that instilled feeling of the American value that has obviously since been co-opted and bastardized by those that are in power now. But so it's very interesting, kind of those cohesions of tones that makes for ultimately what was for me easily like the movie event of the year. I love Sinners. I love No Other Choice. I love every movie that is on my list in a way that I have not in previous top 10 lists. But Marty, there was just something about it with the opening needle drop of Forever Young and the closing needle drop of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Jack, you were sitting right next to me during it, so you know exactly. I was just on a rush for this movie that just was unreplicated by any other movie that I saw throughout this year. So yeah, Marty Supreme, my number one of the year. So once again, just to run through everybody's number one. So Jack, your number one was The Secret Agent. Kristen, your number one was Sinners. Luke, your number one was The History of Sound. Pat, your number one was Sentimental Value, and my number one was Marty Supreme. So That was it, people. That was our wrap-up of 2025/debut for season 8. As we get into 2026, we will be reconvening in a couple of weeks for our 2026 movie draft, in which we will be drafting some of our most anticipated movies of the year. What were your guys' favorite movies of 2025? Whatever your lists were, leave them in the comment section below. Thanks to all of you for joining me on this panel. Jack, starting with you, where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
That's kind of complicated. Not gonna lie. So I will just throw out my letterbox real quick. It is Swaghili, SWAGHILI 123 at letterbox. And from there you can probably just like find my other links. I have a link tree inside of my profile. So YouTube, Twitter, whatever the fuck.
Absolutely. Yes. Kristen, happy to have you on once again. Where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
Well, thank you so much, Don, for having me. It's so great to return to talk about movies. I enjoyed getting to hear everybody's year-end list, such a wide diverse of films. It was a great year for 2025. But thank you for having me. But you can follow me at Miss Filmingo on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, there. And then I co-host a podcast with my best friend, Mac. We talk all sorts of movies. We're going to have our own top 10 episodes soon. So thanks for having me, One Punch Man.
Oh, of course. Anytime, Kristen. Anytime. Luke,
reference to last night.
Oh, man. That was, like I said, the hardest that I have laughed in years with that comment. Like, that one actually broke me. Luke, happy to have you back on. Where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
Yeah, franchise addicts everywhere. We are covering Mad Max as our franchise to kick off 2026. So you can check that out over on YouTube. You can see me and Chris's beautiful faces there, or we do have audio only on Apple and Spotify. Also wanted to shout out our TikTok. I do a special little thing over there. I also post them to YouTube Shorts, but I do 1-minute essays on TV shows because I have a podcast about movies, but I also love TV shows. So I just dropped one on my favorite scene from my favorite scene from season 1 of The Pit.
Yeah, The Pit.
Yes,
love that show.
Back. That's right, The Pit, streaming on HBO Max on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. This episode is not sponsored in any way, but it'd be cool if they did.
It would be great. In anticipation for the first episode of season 2, I dropped that from my favorite moment. I think it's great. And just check us all out there.
Yes, absolutely. Pat, I know you don't have any social media, but like you have a letterbox anywhere that you want to
Yeah, I'll throw my letterbox. Letterbox is it's a motion swee77. So the word motion and then SWEE77. I'll write like short little reviews. Used to be longer, but I just don't have the time. So you can check me out there.
Yes.
And thanks for having me on, despite not really having me on or whatever you want to call it.
We always work.
I got to get a webcam.
We always work
on Amazon right now.
We always make do with technical difficulties. There were a couple streams where my webcam died and I had to go without a camera while I was waiting for my new webcam to come in. So we will always work within people's restrictions. You guys can follow me with everything going on at Movie Nerd Reviews across all platforms, at Official Talkin TV Podcast across all platforms. Also be sure to check out the Talkin TV swag on the merch store, officially available at the link in the bio. And as always, people, here is to season 8. I'm like processing the fact that we are on our 8th season of the show. 12 seasons in a short film, and watch more fucking movies. We'll see you guys in 2026. Take care.